In my last video, I made a breakdown about why Crimson Desert looks next-gen. But after playing and analyzing the game some more, there's something even more interesting happening. It's not just the engine, it's how the world is built. And honestly, this might be one of the biggest shifts in environment art we've seen in years. Because once you start looking closer, you realize this world doesn't behave like most open worlds. This world behaves differently. In my last video, I broke down the tech behind this, the engine, lighting, and systems. But tech alone doesn't create immersion. Great design does. One thing that stands out immediately is how clean everything looks in most cities and for most structures around the world. And that's very unusual for medieval fantasy. Instead of relying on grime to sell realism, this game relies on structure, lighting, and material definition. Also, medieval buildings were clean at some point, like the years after they were built. This is something we don't have any references for because nowadays, those buildings are still standing and they are mostly half broken and time did its thing, covering them with dirt, grime, moss, erosion on the stone walls, etc. The biggest technical art difference is how heavily they rely on displacement. We can see it on every type of surface: ground, path, stone walls, wood planks even. Instead of faking depth with normal maps and increasing the texture memory budget with uniquely baked assets, they're actually pushing geometry. This matters a lot because it creates better silhouettes, more realistic lighting when the light is hitting more complex geometry, and it adds depth even at a distance. Note that this has to be managed with a distance based from the camera system, like every game engine is doing, because displacement can be very expensive. This is why the terrain doesn't feel flat, along with having different elevations. Displacement is used on every stone wall in the game. If you look closely, there is no flat stone wall surfaces in this game. The cobblestones are also all using it. While playing and watching footage of the game, I could only see very few minor glitches and flickering, which is very impressive for a game of that scale. Now look at the cities. Just like in Europe, which is where many of this game's inspiration came from, cities are not grid-based like in America. Most structures are not aligned and we can see much less repetition. There are buildings of different sizes, and an important feature, there are lots of elevation changes. They didn't flatten the terrain before starting construction of a building. All of this leads to a more organic layout than a modern American city. Real cities in Europe evolve over time. They're not designed all at once. Some constructions came much later than others. And this game captures that brilliantly. Most games build cities like levels. This one builds them like natural ecosystems. Another major difference is verticality. You can't just navigate with your minimap like in so many other games. You have to pay attention to your surroundings. You might find a cave in the mountains. Cities are meant to be explored thoroughly. You can miss lots of things if you go too fast. And this becomes even more important once you factor in movement systems. Then there's the weather system. It changes how the world feels moment to moment, and it can impact your exploration of the world. Atmosphere is what turns good environments into believable ones. And all of this feeds into something bigger: exploration. In game design theory, we have the main player motivation axis from Richard Bartle. Exploration is one of the main player motivation, and this game is designed to serve this target audience as a priority. But exploring the world invites for achieving goals, solving puzzles, collect items, and of course, killing or fighting is inherently linked to the exploration as well, as you fight your way through hostile areas and in turn gain access to new parts of the world. My point here is that exploration is what drives everything in this game. So people complaining about the story, I understand that this is not the greatest strength of this game. It is a valid point of criticism, but I would say they are missing the point of the game in some ways. This game's world is meant to be discovered. Abilities are meant to be found. Secrets are everywhere. Those of us who are old enough to remember finding a wall that your bombs could crack open and reveal a secret in Zelda, I'm talking about the first game by the way, The Legend of Zelda. Who doesn't remember the musical cue when you found something? I'm not a nostalgic person, and I'm not saying things were better back then. I just want to point out where that design is coming from. Spending time in game and finding out secrets is one of the most satisfying things about gaming, at least for these kind of games. The world doesn't tell you where to go, it makes you want to find out. Then add the fact that we can ride dragons, mech suits, jetpacks, that we can glide from any height, and the endless list of side activities that are awaiting the players. With all the systems in place and the way the world is designed, this makes room for all sorts of emergent gameplay. Players can set environments on fire, electrify water, use pillars as weapons, or destroy structures during fights. The world features random occurrences, such as circuses and dynamic quests that occur, which players can choose to interact with. This points to something bigger happening. With all of the outrage by Western gaming journalists, really most of them are not worthy of this title. Something became obvious about the major differences between the West and the East, and why the East is beating us so badly. Pearl Abyss took lots of risks while designing Crimson Desert. Not only did they successfully pack an ARPG with deep player progression, a satisfying combat system that includes wrestling moves of all things, solving puzzles, dragon riding, mech riding, and shooting, fighting huge mechanical constructs like freaking dragons and some kind of tanks imagined by Leonardo da Vinci, but they built a world that players feel like spending time in, not going through a list of boring chores that players can't get done soon enough. In Crimson Desert, players actually enjoy playing the game, and just getting lost in it feels like playing the likes of Skyrim, The Witcher 3, and Zelda Breath of the Wild. Not too shabby. Game journalists just want to get through the games so they get to do their review on time. So anything that is not checking a list and raise the percentage of completion is wasting their precious time. That's the main problem they have with a game like this. I heard the complaints. Overall weak performance on PS5 with blurry graphics, color grading is odd in some areas, the grass green is not realistic, the volumetric fog is turned off by default on consoles, some rocks look the same in different areas, the story is not epic or captivating enough, the controls are awkward, some quests are silly or ask the player to do very simple things like the brooming of the chimney. On this one I want to ask, are every moment of your daily life worth making a movie about? Aren't there some very simple things we do every day? Well, that's the kind of immersion they were going for. Not every quest will involve killing an army and flying around with dragon. You also get to find the missing cat of a young girl here and there. It's called pacing and balancing. Not every quest can be of very high intensity. While I don't brush away any of the criticism, most are due to a 6-year-old console limitations. Not that this is an excuse, but for those with experience in shipping games, This is not very surprising. Playing one of the most technologically ambitious games in recent memory on an old console? Yeah, I was not expecting this to be any different. Is this fun for PS5 owners? Of course not. But you have to be reasonable and deal with the facts. It's like putting the engine of a Lamborghini in your 2009 Pontiac and expect the performances of a high-end sports car. Also, I find it very ironic that a large population of gamers are constantly complaining about open world games to be all the same and boring. But when a developer comes out with something different and new, the strongest reaction is negative. I don't give any credibility to legacy media in the field of video game reviews and marketing. The 6 out of 10 from IGN reviewer is either political activism or brain rot. As a professional reviewer, they should put their preferences on the side and review the game for its merits. Saying in 20 hours he did not find anything fun to do is, how can I say this politely? Well, you either have to be very dumb or you have to be trying hard to frame the game in that angle. I actually had a hard time believing that statement. That you are critical of many points, that's fair. The controls are not mapped very well. It's overly complicated, I agree with this. That the quests are not guiding you through the story beats like a long tutorial, well, that's by design. Instead of guiding the player, they're trusting the world. The target audience will free roam on the map and find information, skills, gear, and they will find the solutions to the puzzles. I believe this game will yield secrets and some players will discover amazing things years from now, like hidden rooms, treasures, crazy strategies to beat bosses, etc. This is the kind of game that you can play in different ways. Different players will approach challenges differently, and that's exactly what the industry needs. And about the reception by Western game journalists, well, they are a dying breed and they know it. In game development, people who resist change are going to be replaced. Not by AI, by other devs who embrace change and can deal with it. And this is where things get really important, especially if you're learning environment art right now. Because most artists look at a game like Crimson Desert and focus on the wrong things. They focus on complexity. But that's not what makes this game feel real. What makes this work is how everything connects. The terrain is designed to work with the architecture connects to the gameplay connects to the player's movement. That's world design, not asset creation. You can read the environment instantly. You understand where to go, what to explore, what matters. Your eyes are drawn in the directions the world designers intended to draw them. And that's exactly what studios look for. So you have to keep this principle in mind when planning your next project for your portfolio. Intentional design. Nothing here feels random. Every elevation, every building, every path feels intentional. And this is the part most students completely miss. They're building assets instead of building worlds. And by that, I don't mean that students should work on large projects. Quite the opposite, actually. But make your environments make sense. That's actually why I made a free AAA environment portfolio checklist. Because if your portfolio doesn't show this kind of thinking, it doesn't matter how good your materials or sculpts are. Studios are not hiring mindless software operators. They're hiring problem solvers. So instead of asking, how do I make this look more detailed? Start asking, how does this environment actually work? That shift alone is what separates someone who's learning from someone who's ready to get hired. This is what I did to get my job in a AAA studio. I will cover this topic in a future video. And once you start seeing environments this way, you can't unsee it. So what makes Crimson Desert feel next-gen isn't just technology. It's how everything works together. Art, systems, and design. And that's why it feels real. And this is what will matter the most on your portfolio. Your environments need to make sense, and all the elements have to work together to tell a story. If you want to understand the tech behind this, watch my breakdown of the engine here. If you're learning from these videos but struggling to put everything together into a full environment, that's exactly why I built my full course. You'll build the entire scene step by step in real time, understanding composition, scale, materials, and lighting, so you can apply the same process to your own world. These environments were created by students using the same workflow you'll learn here. It's designed for artists who already know the basics and want to create portfolio-level work, not just isolated studies. This isn't about learning tools, it's about learning how professionals build environments. If that's where you're trying to get to, you can check it out in the description. And a quick thank you to the members supporting the channel. Your support helps make these videos possible.